Chair of the Future Florida delegation, and I reserve the right to yield the remainder of my time to Delegate Noel from Wisconsin.
That is your right.
This proposal provides that there would be a 1% income tax, and although this may seem minimal, it is further indebting the taxpayer, and is irrational and unfair based on our country's history of recession and solution. Let me provide you with an example as to what our government does with these situations. Let's say I take away your car when there's a petroleum shortage, and when offshore drilling provides large deposits of oil to make up for taking your car, I give you back a bike. I don't want a bike, I want back my car. And our government hardly provides us with this help and promises that this proposal cannot be trusted. This proposal is stating, I'm going to increase your taxes, and when you are struggling, I'll give you a little something back. But guess what partly caused that recession? The increase of taxes for the middle and lower classes, and the common man as well. We can't stand for this tax increase. Therefore, I propose that you do not pass it, you do not vote well for this proposal. With that, I give the remainder of my time to Delegate Noel from Wisconsin.
You have 55 seconds.
Delegate Noel, Wisconsin. I thank the chair and I thank you, previous speaker. Just to point this out, we will be taking money from the masses, putting it into a pile, and then evenly spreading it out. This kind of sounds like a little ideal by Karl Marx, communism. We will be taxed our income, even though it's 1% minimum, it will still be taxed and put into a pool. When we get a new recession, it will be handed out to everyone equally. This country was made on the backbone, the hard sweat dripping down your brow. People coming up, pulling themselves up by the strap of their boots. This will not help out the economy overall because people feel like, oh, I'm lazy, when the recession comes, I'll just get money. If you were to bring this idea up 20, 30 years ago, people would almost shun you for your commie ideas. We are a democratic republic, and I want to stay that way. Thank you, and I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Topcar Colorado delegation, may I reserve the right to yield the remainder of my time to Yin from Alabama.
That is your right.
Delegates, I stand here in extremely firm affirmation of this proposal. For once, this is actually a diligent proposal that takes into consideration all points of view when it comes to any kind of economy fixing. First of all, there's the congressman. Any congressman, all congressmen will do whatever it takes to preserve and build his or her own political capital. Any legislation that is potentially contentious will become one more place to gain or lose political capital, which means that any kind of legislation that's extremely contentious will lead to congressional debate and essentially congressional drama. This means that it'll take a long time for any kind of contentious legislation to be passed, especially when it comes to recession-fixing legislation. This affects the consumer in a very bad way. When Congress tries to feign this long, intense drama, the consumer falls victim to a crumbling economy that takes almost a year to fix, even though Congress had fixed a very similar problem less than 10 years ago. This proposal sets up an autonomous and automatic system that maintains an economic equilibrium. Congress no longer has to get their hands dirty every time the economy rises or falls, and the consumer benefits from this economic stability. With that, I yield the rest of my time to the gentleman from Alabama.
You yield 30 seconds.
Yeah, the family in Alabama. Ladies and gentlemen, 1% is really not that much for American. It's like you're a squirrel. You save acorns for winter, and at winter, you eat those acorns. The stimulus package will be our money, not the money of other countries. This will also stop the bleeding of our national deficit. Moreover, this money will be used only after not one, but 2 periods of GDP deceleration. Plus, this is basically a lifeline for our economy. What's so bad about
Delegate, your time has elapsed.
I yield the remainder of my time to Hill, Kentucky.
That is your right.
Economists are nothing if not empiricists. From Adam Smith to John Maynard Keynes, to Milton Friedman to John Nash, economic theory over what works changes over time, and what in fact does work changes from specific instance to specific instance. To assume the existence of a monolithic solution, something as incomprehensible as economic theory, is folly. And to fund this monolithic solution with taxpayer money from any time to be spent at any time is irresponsible. And with that, I yield the remainder of my time to Hill, Kentucky.
You yield 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Mason Hill, representing the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
My fellow delegates, I rise in opposition to this proposal because despite my support for the concept of being prepared for recession, I strongly disagree with how this proposal sets up the system of storing the acorns for this safety net. GDP does not mean an increase in income for the average American. In the last economic expansion, the top 1% of Americans' income grew from 1980 to 2006 by more than 1,100%. The average Americans, about 20%. Obviously, the increase in income is not distributed evenly among Americans. Also, because the GDP does not necessarily mean a rise in income, it does not necessarily mean a rise in standard of living, which should be the basis of any economic policy. And also, I would like to point out that this would have only exacerbated the issues that led up to the recent recession. The recession was caused because middle and lower class Americans could no longer afford housing payments on mortgages. That was because of wage stagnation. While the richest got richer in the year preceding the recession, in about the 5 years immediately preceding the recession, the construction workers, coal miners, their wages did not rise, but they decreased. In fact,
delegate, your time has elapsed. We'll now move on to the final.
Tyler Gross, Michigan delegation. I would like to reserve the right to yield the remainder of my time to Delegate Mock.
As your right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not going to claim to know and understand economics as well as previous speakers, or as well as the economists that institute these policies. But I will say that as to the accusation of this being a communist proposal or a socialist proposal, I believe Thomas Mann once said, every reasonable man is at least moderately socialist. If this means that it will ensure the future prosperity of America, I support it, even if you do call it socialist. Thank you, and I yield my remaining time to Delegate Mock.
Thank you. You have 1 minute and 2 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Eddie Moak, Lake Coke from New Jersey. I would just, in reference to a previous delegate about how this proposal would have been responded to 30 years ago. I'm glad we're not living 30 years ago. I feel blessed that we have come to a point in time that people are no longer shunned for something as complex and impersonal as economic opinions. And I feel blessed that we've come to this place where we can listen to other delegates' ideas and not be condescending or insulting towards what their economic beliefs are. I stand in strong support of this proposal because I believe that those who have the power have the responsibility. If you have the power to stop an incoming recession or depression or economic crisis, I believe you have the responsibility to do so, and that's what this proposal does. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate.
Useless spending be spent on something that has proven to be less than ineffective. Delegates, as I stated before, you cannot multiply wealth by dividing it. You cannot legislate the poor into freedom by legislating the wealthy out of freedom. What one person receives without working for, another person must work for without receiving. The government cannot give to anybody anything that the government does not first take from somebody else. When half of the people get the idea that they do not have to work because the other half is going to take care of them, and when the other half gets the idea that it does no good to work because somebody else is going to get what they have worked for, that is surely the end of any nation's future. I yield the rest of my time to the delegate from New Jersey.
You have 1 minute, 15 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Please display your placard, Delegate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Burns, New Jersey. I actually disagree with the previous delegate. I believe that stimulus packages are the way to correct the recession, as demonstrated by the concept of the multiplier in economics. It is more effective than tax cuts. However, I have a couple of fundamental problems with this proposal. First of all, this proposes that you are not allowed to deficit spend in a recession. However, deficit spending is the cornerstone of Keynesian economics and has been proven to be the way to get a nation out of a severe recession. It must be done in the case of a severe recession. Furthermore, this proposal says that taxes must be raised to raise the money for the stimulus package. However, as demonstrated by the Laffer curve created by Arthur Laffer, if taxes are above 38%, the richest Americans, if you raise taxes, your tax revenue will decrease. If tax revenue decreases, then you will be in a hole and you will have to deficit spend if you plan to do the stimulus package. I commend the author on a proposal that has great intent, and I agree with his intention to create a stimulus package in the case of recession. However, I cannot support this proposal. I either made the right time to the chair.
Thank you, Delegate.